Zarella reports even if all goes well, one more major hurdle remains.
The flight readiness firing, as it is called, is the most difficult, dangerous ground test of the shuttle system. Last Thursday was the perfect example.
We have a go for main engine start. 7. We have a cutoff. We have cutoff of the start sequence.
Milliseconds before the shuttle Discovery's 3 main engines were supposed to fire, a computer shut down the system after detecting a problem in a valve in one of the engines.
We gave a command for the valve to move. We waited a 2-second interval, which was programmed into the software, and then we examined its position. It failed the criteria for being at the position it should have been in.
NASA engineers spent the weekend changing the sluggish valve deep inside a cramped engine compartment. It was just the latest in a series of problems that have forced one delay after another of the test firing. On 2 other occasions, the firing had to be postponed after engineers detected hydrogen leaks in lines which feed the liquid hydrogen fuel to the vehicle. The flight readiness firing is one of the 2 remaining hurdles the space agency must get over before Discovery can fly.
3, 2, 1, fire.
The other is a final test of the redesigned solid rocket booster, which is scheduled for the end of this month.
Other than those 2 major events, I see nothing of a huge and impending nature that we have to do between now and the flight of STS-26.
It may not be huge and impending, but NASA must still fix a leak in one of the shuttle's onboard maneuvering rockets. That will take about 2 weeks and requires cutting through a bulkhead in the vehicle's cargo bay to reach the leak. There is still a lot that could go wrong, but NASA officials say that barring any further delays, Discovery will still fly before the end of September. John Zarella, CNN, at the Kennedy Space Center in Florida.
NBC News at sunrise with Deborah Norville.
Engineers at Cape Canaveral, Florida are finally ready this morning to test fire the Space Shuttle Discovery. Early today, they pumped 500,000 gallons of fuel into Discovery's external tanks, and if all goes well, at 7:30 Eastern Time, they'll start the big motors. NBC's Jay Barbary is standing by live at the Cape. Good morning, Jay.
Good morning, Keith. There have been a few rain showers here, but at the moment the weather looks good for another try at the critical test firing of the Space Shuttle Discovery's engines. The flight readiness firing, that's what they call it here, has been delayed 11 days, including a last-second failure 6 days ago.
We have a cutoff. We have cutoff of the start sequence.
An engine valve sensor was the culprit. It was replaced, and yesterday the service tower was rolled back for this morning's attempt. Technicians spent the night loading Discovery's external tank with 500,000 gallons of fuel, and this morning the engines will be fired for 20 seconds to test their modifications since the Challenger blow-up and as an overall workout for the ground equipment and launch teams. The engines will be fired with slightly different start and stop times, and while they generate 1.1 million pounds of thrust, Discovery will be held firmly on its launch pad. If the test succeeds, NASA will set a date for the first post-Challenger flight. Officials say it's still possible to launch the shuttle by September 29th, but most insiders here feel Discovery won't take off until October.
And they hope that they'll be able to do that, and they're still hopeful that there'll be a launch in late September or early October. Paula?
Bettina Gregory reporting live from Cape Canaveral. Thank you.
Engineers try for a 6th time to test the shuttle's main engines. It's a crucial time at the Kennedy Space Center for the troubled shuttle program. The officials hope to get Discovery aloft by year's end. A new launch date can't be set until the engine test is completed. The results analyzed today, Wednesday, August the 10th, 1988.
And ready for the main engine test firing, the one that didn't come off last Thursday. CNN's John Zarella is standing by again as this milestone approaches on the way to American resumption of manned space flight. John, how's it looking this morning?
Well, Reed, NASA says everything is go. They're in a built-in hold right about now, or just about coming out of a first built-in hold. We're scheduled to test fire those 3 main engines in about 30 minutes. There is some weather out here behind us at the Cape right now, some cloud cover. There was some concern that if the rain moved in, if there was lightning within 10 miles of the launch pad, this test would not come off right at 7:30 and it might be delayed a little bit. But right now, it seems to be holding off. It seems as if we will get this test firing in, as you mentioned last Thursday, 6 days ago, all the way up to milliseconds before the three main engines were supposed to fire, and the sensor, the computer, detected that there was a sticky valve, a sluggish valve, and it shut down the main engines. NASA has spent all weekend changing that valve out, changing the sensor, and they say that they're going to go for it this morning and that everything is looking good, but we won't know until it actually happens. Reed?
John, we've launched a lot of space shuttles without the mains having to be tested out there on the launch pad. What's so important about this one?
Well, in particular importance is that since Challenger, there have been at least 200 modifications to the entire vehicle. Not only the Space Shuttle Orbiter itself, but to the main, of course, to the main engines in the orbiter, of course, some to the external tank, and the solid rocket boosters have been completely going to give launch controllers a chance to work through a complete countdown, something that some of these people have never really done before up until last week, so this will be their second attempt. And it also gives them a chance to check out all of the many components of the space shuttle that have been redesigned since Challenger. Reed?
All right, and John Zarella will be there, and so will CNN. We'll bring you live coverage of the shuttle's engine test, scheduled to start at 7:30 Eastern, which is 4:30 Pacific time, which is all less than a half hour from now.
There's going to be a real test for the workers, and it is one thing that they need in order to get ready for this launch, which will be later this fall. Lynn?
Thank you very much, Bruce, and we'll be watching that closely.
Of course, everyone here is hoping this attempt will succeed.
It means that we have successfully proven that we can overcome problems and that our systems are go for launch.
And the countdown has just resumed after a built-in hold at 20 minutes. There'll be another hold at 9 minutes, but so far everything looks good for a firing test this morning. Forrest?
Bettina, clearly this test is critical, but is this the last big stumbling block to setting a launch date?
Well, it's the second to the last big stumbling block. The last big stumbling block is to make a repair to the shuttle body itself. Once that is done, then they will set a launch date, but NASA officials are talking about a launch late in September or early October. Forrest?
Bettina Gregory waiting for the launch at Kennedy Space Center. Thank you very much, Bettina.
These main engines.
That's coming just minutes away. It'll be followed by Business Day with Bill Hartley. I'm Marianne Law.
T-minus 2 minutes and counting. And liquid hydrogen tank.
This is CNN, a network of Turner Broadcasting System.